Hey, boating is one of the top attractions to Lake Havasu. We feel blessed to spend so much time at Havasu Springs, and of course, so much we do is related to the lake. Today, we're taking you on a boat ride through the Bill Williams River National Wildlife Refuge. I'd much rather go by kayak, but that would make for a very long video. So we're leaving our slip right now. Havasu Springs, as you'll see, is located right next door to the refuge. It's only a short distance to the boundary markers noting no wake, which protects the environment and minimizes shoreline erosion. But of course, that makes it an excellent fishery also without the chaos of boating. I'm sitting behind our captain only because most of what I want to show you at the beginning here is going to be on this side of the boat. So I guess I'll be moving around. But here's where we start. This island on the right is known as Bird or Heron Island and is protected, so no public access. You'll see on the other side some man-made nesting poles, and you'll often see herons or egrets, but as far as we know, there's never been a recorded nesting on the island. I believe their rookeries are actually located in the marsh on the other side of the water. Let's see, DA is putting a rod in the water for stripers, so you never know. It may turn into a fishing tour.
Never go anywhere without a line in the water.
Never go anywhere without a line in the water, the captain says. So this is the tip of the island, and when you're kayaking, you can kayak behind this island, and there's a lot of little coves and interesting places to go in a kayak. This is such a favorite place of mine. So we're continuing. This body of water that you're looking at right now is actually the intake arm for the CAP project, Central Arizona project. So that is the system, the canal system that takes water to Phoenix and Tucson. There's also a system that takes water to California, which is, of course, the reason, you've probably heard me say this before, the reason we have water in Lake Havasu. And it is just up the river the other way, a short distance. Okay, it's only a couple of minutes, but we're officially in the refuge. We're trolling at, how fast are we going?
2.2.
At 2.2 miles, which of course is still a little faster than a kayak. I don't know if you can see just ahead there is a bench and some signage which happens to be at the end of the Peninsula Trail, and we'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. We're going to be traveling just below the Peninsula Trail so that you can actually see some of the refuge and what it would look like if you were on the water here. The Peninsula Trail is about a half mile each way. It begins at the sidewalk near the visitor center and includes information panels along the first quarter mile with access to fishing and observation docks. The second quarter mile, which is the part that we're looking at right now, is unpaved and leads out to the bench at the end. And I always think it's perfect for getting away from it all for a little contemplation or to enjoy a sunset. We've planned this trip to be returning at sunset, so we'll see how that works out for us. In the distance, you can see one of the fishing docks, and we'll resume that when we get a little closer. Funny, but DA just told me people call this Titanic Point because people get out there on the edge and put their arms up and mimic that famous scene from the movie. And P.S., you're not hearing from DA right now because I'm sitting behind him. But a little later on, I'll be sitting beside him so that he can more easily participate. So he's looking for grebes, and grebes they're not a duck, they're waterfowl.
They never leave the water except to nest.
They never leave the water.
And when the minute the hatchlings hatch, they're on the back and in the water. They're on the back of the mom, and the mom is in the water.
They have a real distinctive cry that sounds kind of froggish, and you can hear it, and those babies chirp just constantly.
Begging
Mom for a treat. There are two grebes right in front of us, and they had a chick, and the little chick just came over and got a little fish and then dove, I guess. Is that the chick?
Yeah, that's an almost full-grown chick.
Yeah, it's almost full-grown. I thought when I first saw it that it was two adults, but one of those is the mama, and the littler one is the baby.
And they never stop swimming.
They never stop swimming, and DA looks for them, or anglers look for them, because that indicates where the fish are.
Where the bait is.
Where the bait is. And the bait here is mostly shad, a little tiny white silvery fish that the grebes love. This is an important birding area, but being the last week of October, they haven't gotten here in the multitude that they'll be arriving. So here we're approaching that dock that I told you about. So the first part of the Peninsula Trail is paved, lighted, and irrigated, and the public is welcome 24 hours a day. At the dock is where the pavement ends and the rough trail begins. Those houses you see up on the hill, that's a community that is called Hillcrest. It's a remote community, but most of those homes have awesome views of the, this part of the lake. There's no camping at the refuge, but on a hot night, certainly anglers or walkers can come and enjoy it.
The piers are lit up.
Yeah, and the piers are lighted. And they're quite large, so they accommodate a lot of people. So here at the Refuge, there's a visitor center with exhibits and an environmental education building. I don't know if you know this, but most wildlife refuges are free to visit. They don't charge any kind of fees. And that's because wildlife refuges are built primarily for wildlife, whereas the national parks are built primarily for the public to enjoy wildlife. So if you're not familiar with them, and we weren't, and still we started RVing back in 2013, they are an awesome place to go because they offer so many benefits and so few people. I have volunteered in the visitor center at various times, and people come in and they say, I've been driving by here for 15 years. I decided to check and see what's happening. And so it's very interesting that people come for a number of reasons. I mean, there are some guided walks, and there are art with the ranger and various things that go on during the season, but people, for the most part, don't know. Up there on the hill, there are a couple. You see that rusty brown cover. That's a couple of RV sites. So most wildlife refuges have spots for volunteers. And typically it works that you volunteer for 20 hours a week in return for full hookup site. And I have to tell you, this is certainly one of the finest sites that you'll run into because you're right on the lake, literally right on the intake arm of the lake, and there's space for 3 RVs and nobody else is there. So it's pretty awesome. So the visitor center is usually open weekdays from 8 to 4. As I said, there are nature tours, and they've been offered in the past weekly. Due to some staffing changes, I'm not really sure if they'll be offering tours this season, so stay tuned. And if they're going to do it, I'll put a note in the description. If you take the path from the visitor center toward the water, you'll turn left to get to the Peninsula Trail, or you'll turn right to get to the Delta Trail. It's actually the Delta Loop. And the Delta Trail is also about a half mile, but it's a rugged loop trail, and it is not paved, but it provides the best overlook of the marsh and the river delta. Now we're seeing the non-motorized launch and parking area for the launch, and it gets a lot of use. It's a very popular place to come, and needless to say, starting from here, going up the river as compared to starting from Havasu Springs really saves a lot of time. Okay, now you'll see a small building, which is where the process of turning lake water into potable water happens. And then there's a dam, a man-made dam, just to the left that we're pretty close to now. And on the other side of that dam is a pond that is used for raising the native fish to the lake, the bony-tailed chub and the razorback sucker. They're the native invasive occupants who wouldn't stand a chance in the main lake with the invasive varieties, which are striper, large largemouth and smallmouth bass, channel and flathead catfish, red ear, bluegill, and black crappie. Can you see up on the hill that black truck? So that's pretty close to where you would get the great overview if you were on the Delta Trail. Needless to say, you're seeing now we're turning a bit and seeing the beautiful marsh. The refuge is home to a wide array of wildlife, including rattlesnakes and beavers, and it's an important birding area, as I said before, with over 350 species of birds. So here we have, what, a half dozen, no more, little ruddy ducks.
Those are females.
And DA tells me these are female.
And they're one of the littlest ducks.
And they are one of the littlest ducks, and they have a blue bill, am I right?
In the spring.
Oh, in the spring. I just learned something.
The male's bill turns blue.
It's the male bill that turns blue.
And, we have starting to see a lot of waterfowl showing up. Ruddy ducks are here out on the main lake. Yesterday I was noticing eared grebes migrating through, a lot of American avocets, and so it's the loons haven't got here yet. And the loons are unique for Lake Havasu because people are very aware of loons and their checkerboard back and their call and all that. But when the loons get down here in the wintertime, they're completely a different color and they don't talk. So they're quite unique when I show somebody from Wisconsin, oh, that's a loon. Oh, no, that's not a loon. That's a loon. That's a loon in winter colors. So pretty soon we'll have canvasbacks, all kinds of widgeons, and a lot of golden-eyed common and barrows, and just a lot of ducks. And when they get down here early in the season, they've been shot at quite a bit, so they're pretty skittish.
And we have merganser. I was trying to think of some of the other names. What's that beautiful, not canvasback, the other really gorgeous one?
There's redheads, and there's...
Yeah, of course, there's redheads. And pelicans. We have a lot of white pelicans. Seem to come in flocks and stay for a while, disappear, and then come back again. All this time we've been in the Bill Williams River Delta as it enters the Colorado River. Now we're entering the channel that will lead directly to the Bill Williams River under the bridge on Highway 95, about halfway between Parker and Lake Havasu City. That big motor you hear behind us is probably turning around at the boundary. Interestingly, all this beautiful green marsh is in the process of going dormant. It's green all summer, then a golden brown in the winter. The marsh is an invaluable habitat for wildlife. You can see the bridge in the distance, and do you see the white rocks in the background? DA was just talking about the fact that that's gypsum, which is what
they make sheetrock out of.
They make sheetrock out of.
But they don't mind that. That's out there in the middle of nowhere.
They probably don't mind it here. It is pretty remote.
Are you broadcasting?
Our guided fishing business, HavasuNet'em.com's clients come primarily for two species of fish. It's the stripers in the fall and red ear in the spring. And DA will tell us a little more about that. I'm going to sit down beside him.
So a lot of people have heard about striper, and we have a good population of striper. They were planted in 1962, and they didn't know if they were going to take or be successful, and they were wildly successful. So that's a very healthy population. And then what Jude was mentioning, we have another fish called the red ear, and nobody generally knows about the red ear except sunfish aficionados. They know all about the red ear. The red ear in Lake Havasu is a national treasure. When you hear on the news invasive species, blah, 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 one of the invasive species that's kind of detrimental to lakes is called coagula mussels. We commonly refer to them as zebra mussels because they have a stripe on them. Stripes. And so Lake Havasu is a hot spot for these. They've been in here for a very, very, very long time. And they're filter feeders. And so states don't want them in there because they make the fishing weird. Anyway, so in the south, a red ear is called a shell cracker. And he grows up like a bluegill. He's a cousin to a bluegill. And he grows up like a bluegill. But then in adolescence, he grows kind of molars right back here. And then his diet switches from what little bluegill eat, insects and small crustaceans and such, and he switches to eating snails. Well, Lake Havasu has snails, but it has zebra mussels. This is the only population of red ear in the entire world that's learned to eat. It's a learned behavior. Learn to eat the red ear. The coagula mussels. So they have a never-ending supply of protein and a not stop grow button. So the world record, not the state record, not the lake record, the world record comes of red ear sunfish comes out of Lake Havasu. And it's a big deal. We actually book well into a year in advance. And like I've said, I already have 20 reservations for 2026. That's 2 years away, or 18 months and stuff like that. So it's a pretty common fish all over the southern United States. But here, they're giants. And the world record is 6 pounds 3 ounces. Yes, that's correct. 6 pounds 3 ounces. So we catch lots of 3-pounders, and it's hard to imagine that the world record comes out of here and it's twice as big. And it was broke 4 years ago. So set 4 years ago. So it's an ongoing thing. They don't stop grow button. Who knows what the world record is it's going to be broken again here real soon. And so it'll be interesting. So striper and red ear. And so that's my little spiel on red ear. And they're quite the fighters because they're big and around like a dinner plate, and they turn sideways. And so they don't just come in the boat. And so people come for a fish of a lifetime, bragging rights, and even a chance at a world record.
And so did he tell you that people literally come from all over the world and they fish multiple days? So that's how we get so busy from the middle of March till the middle of May. Okay, we're approaching the bridge, and it's just such a beautiful view. I wanted to share it. I'm not sharing every foot of the way simply because I don't know how I could possibly edit it, but I think you'll agree this is quite a beautiful place.
So the cinnamon teal get up here too.
Yeah, so we were just chatting. The birds change when you get up here. There's still the grebes. There are cormorants, but we see those out on the lake as well. A famous bird for this area is the cinnamon teal. It's associated with a lot of artwork from this area. And then in the marsh, there are lots of secretive marsh birds that are very difficult to see. And Sora comes to mind, but what are some of the other ones, honey?
Virginia, I think a Virginia rail lives up here too.
Well, it's a clapper rail.
Clapper
now,
rail.
I believe they changed the name. And then you had another one. Was it the marsh hen?
The Gallaloots or
Gallinule.
Yeah, they're up here. And more coots, more pie-billed grebes.
Coots, pie-billed grebes. We haven't seen coots today, but we'll
So
see them by the thousands.
Today we're going to come, as soon as we clear this bridge and go about 100 yards, we're going to come to one of the better views of the Bill Williams National Wildlife Refuge. And being calm like it is with the reflection, should get a very good shot of this of the mountains to our right, reflecting on the water.
So what he's talking about, you'll see much better when we get under the... Okay, here's that gorgeous view we were promising.
See the reflection on the water? Pretty cool.
Yeah, and the reflection on the water. This is a favorite place. And we'll see more of that too when we're on our the auto tour of Planet Ranch Road, because the road runs right under that largest structure. By the way, if you're ever hiking back there, you can always figure out where you are if you can see that landmark. So just a heads up, it is a remote area and you're not always going to run into a lot of hikers. But if you can find that mountain, you can find the road. So here we have a patio boat, and he's fishing for the shad. He's throwing a net to get shad to use as bait. A lot of the anglers come up and do that. And then they use that for bait for stripers, right?
Striper or catfish.
I mean catfish. Catfish are a real big deal up here too. And they get to be enormous. And so in our park at Havasu Springs Resort, the fishermen...
Ahoy!
Not much up in here yet.
Lots of fishermen...
We're just sightseeing.
Fishing for lots of different species. So that boat we were just passing is the only other boat we've seen since we got out here today. You know, it's the last week of October. The high was probably mid-90s today. Fortunately, it's going down. This is the first year we've returned so late in the year. We usually start operations in October, but we decided to cut ourselves a little slack and have an extra month's vacation. It was very nice, needless to say. People always valued this refuge for its last stand of native willows and cottonwoods along the Colorado River, about 750 acres. Sadly, a lightning-caused wildfire took them all in June of 2021. Really, everyone. I cried the first time we made the trip that fall. I couldn't and didn't want to believe my eyes. We'll see evidence of it today, and we'll have a glimpse of the rejuvenation that has occurred from planting of literally thousands of willows, cottonwoods, and mesquites. You'll see it, but you don't really see it that well from the water. So this will be something that you'll see much better when we take the drive on Planet Ranch Road, which is also in the refuge. There are several places where you'll have sweeping vistas of the replanting. The water is shallow. DA was just saying it's 4 feet right here, but when you enter back from the delta, it could be 1 foot or
It's 2 feet at the
2 feet.
delta.
So, you're fine in a kayak, but it's just a heads up so you know. We're following the grebes who apparently are seeking the cooler waters up here. Up on the left, I'm seeing trees that were burnt in the fire. So I'll just turn this off for a minute and then we'll resume. Okay, on the left, you can see some of the burnt trees. They're actually on both sides of the river, but at least right now it seems, easier to see those on the left. So a little more about this precious resource. In 1969, Alamo Dam was completed to reduce flooding on the Bill Williams River. The dam, located in a watershed that's subject to both long droughts and large floods, significantly changed the woodland habitat downstream from the dam. In years of drought, the dam slowly accumulated and held all the water that flowed into it, leaving the Bill Williams and the habitat it sustained completely dry. In years of severe flooding, the gates at the dam were left open for months at a time, releasing a steady high level of water that left the habitat downstream completely inundated. Both cases had devastating effects. Within a couple of decades, most of the forests that lined the Bill Williams had disappeared. The effects of the dam were most noticeable at the refuge. Thanks to changes in how water is released from Alamo Dam, the refuge now benefits from it significantly in growing and sustaining these trees that help regulate water temperature through shade, prevent erosion by stabilizing riverbanks with their roots, filter pollutants from runoff, provide habitat for aquatic life, and contribute to a balanced ecosystem. Now, as we go, we're getting more shallow and more shallow. It's 3.4 right now. The Bill Williams River is what's known as an ephemeral river, a river that doesn't flow year-round. So we can only go about 2.5 miles before it fills in and we have to turn around. Or, that's true in a kayak, but in this boat, it'll be too shallow at some point in the not too distant future for us to continue. But until then, we'll just keep enjoying this wonderful place. So now it's deeper, a little deeper, but it's getting narrower and narrower. So we'll be turning around shortly. And then it was 1 foot, so we are backing up to turn around.
When the fish finder loses its depth, time to quit.
He said when the fish finder loses its depth, that's it. That's what's happening. But needless to say, he's an expert at this.
There we go. We got our depth back. But you can see us kicking up mud.
Yeah, picking up mud with the motors. Okay, so we're not going to talk on the way back, so then I can speed this up in the editing process. But you can enjoy the scenery and hopefully the sunset. And we'll be back to wrap it up at Havasu Springs. Well, we're back at the bridge, and we don't have sunset, but we certainly have a beautiful sky. And I'm thinking it surely will be sunset before we get back to Havasu Springs. But I just wanted to check back in and show you this sky. So now, what were you telling me about the clouds being a predictor of a front?
The cirrus clouds are a predictor of a front. They're called curls, wispy curls.
Wispy curl clouds.
They're all here, and there is a front predicted on Monday.
Oh, and the front is predicted on Monday, which is going to lower the temperature, but just for a couple of days. But I mean, we really are at the end of the hot weather. I'm happy to report. Well, my goodness, the sun just dipped there behind the mountain. I was trying to record it earlier, but I was blinding myself. I'm still got a lot to learn in this YouTube school. It's going to be beautiful. We're at
the mouth.
Yeah, we're at the mouth of the Bill Williams River, where it joins the Colorado, just ahead of us, and then a quick jaunt across the lake to Havasu Springs. And the sky is getting very pretty. Well, friends, thanks so much for joining us on this tour of our front yard at Lake Havasu. We'll catch you next week. We'd love to hear your comments if you have any about this experience. And
Fishing.
see you down the road. Bye-bye.